3 seniors on the team, one of the team captains. They're going to have to rely on experienced players like him.
It's not just what he's going to bring to the team off the field, but the experience on the field, like you just said, is going to be so vital for this young Bison team. And for Alex individually, at least in this game, he's got a little bit more motivation, looking for those bragging rights around the dinner table at the holidays with his younger brother being in Carolina blue.
That's right, Alex, the older brother of North Carolina's Akeem Clark there. But kickoff is just moments away here in Chapel Hill. Bucknell at North Carolina to get the season rolling. Back with you at Dorrance Field in Chapel Hill, ACC Network Extra, Bucknell at North Carolina. And we, Kyle Straub, are ready to roll.
Your classic Carolina pregame jump around. Fans back in the stands. Got to get everybody excited as we kick off this new season here.
First game of the season for each of these two teams, with some exhibitions under their belts, of course. And the Bison there in their bright orange uniforms, you see. I think that would be obvious to the viewers. But just in case,
there's been some changes in college soccer in terms of the way the schedule has been the last couple of years, but there has not been uniform changes, not that drastic at least.
So an early set piece for Bucknell, and that one makes its way back to Alex Smurr. His first touch of the contest is a relaxed one.
Clark didn't really get great connection on that touch there, but for Bucknell, you're less than a minute into the game and you've gotten through that back line of Carolina, which is so good. Barely gave up a goal a game last season.
Well, here is Carlos Somuano, North Carolina's head coach. A bit more experience than we'll see on the opposite sideline, but we'll get to Matt Brown in just a moment. Somuano in 2011, of course, his first year at the helm of North Carolina, ended up winning a national championship with them, back to the College Cup last season. quite the pedigree for the Tar Heels.
And back to the College Cup, but it's not like it was 2011 where they won it and then they made it back this year. More than half of the seasons he's been the head coach for North Carolina, they've made it to the College Cup.
Senior Aiden Perry in goal for Bucknell.
You talked about it, the experience with Clark being a senior for Bucknell. Don't think that that's the case, though, with your keeper here, because it's actually his first collegiate game, even though he is a senior.
Yeah, an interesting story, as Matt Brown told us on our call earlier this week. Perry, back in between the pipes for Bucknell, touching it now, was on the team his first year at Bucknell, was not on the team for 2 seasons, 2 years of his academic career, and has rejoined them since, becoming now their starting goalkeeper. So it's a little bit different type of senior when you see it that way written out on the roster.
Everybody has their own individual journey, but his finally got him back onto the pitch and out there to start game 1 of his senior season. So it's a little bit of a different journey than some others have taken to get to the final season, but here he is, and they're going to expect him to be a big part of this young team.
And there you see Matt Brown, interim head coach for Bucknell as of literally 10 days ago.
Yeah. Tough situation to step in where you 10 days before the season don't expect to be the head coach, settling into your role, and then all of a sudden everything gets blown up, and not just from his standpoint, but for a team as well to have that happen right before a year starts.
And we've mentioned the youth of this team as well, so everybody just trying to figure that out as they go.
But you know, Darren, it's one of those situations where as a team at that point, 10 days before the season, you kind of have 2 choices. It's well, we can go ahead and have the mentality of here we go, look at how the season gets off to a start. Or actually go ahead and come together as a unit. You're really young. It could be a real big benefit to have that kind of continuity forced upon them.
It's a good defense deep there by North Carolina as Bucknell applying the pressure, and Smur goes up, elevates.
It was a nice job on the backside of that too, though. The defender there for North Carolina, Zatarin, just a little bit of a push in the back of Clark, didn't allow him to get to his full vertical, couldn't get the head on the ball, and made it easy for his keeper, Smur.
So now the Tar Heels with possession.
You know, we talk about the youth for Bucknell. North Carolina was a very young team last year, so bringing back a lot of those starters. I think it's 9 of the 11 that were on that College Cup team. But when talking with Carlos before the game, he was talking about this year's team being this year's team, and I have 13 new players that I have to try and integrate into this team and find the best fit.
And there it is, the first goal of the season for North Carolina. Jonathan Jimenez puts it in for Alex Rose, who delivers and sends it to the back of the net.
And one of the players that he had highlighted to us as far as offense goes, because they lost their big scorer from last year, Montes Diaca, who's going to step up. And he said, I really feel like Alex Rose has taken another step in his offseason and in his training, and obviously paying off dividends right away. Little misplay there by the Bucknell defense. Double move, good cross. A little bit out of position by that back line. That's some inexperience on the youth, but Rose in the perfect spot to finish that, though.
Rose first on the scoreboard for North Carolina this season, the number 4 team in the country, according to the U.S. coaches poll. And quite the test for Bucknell, a young Bucknell team with young leadership. Talk about Matt Brown, their interim head coach, getting that assignment just 10 days ago. At least he was on staff at that point. Cam Olson has only been an assistant coach on staff for Bucknell for about a week.
If you have that kind of a situation happening, you're going to promote from within to try and keep things as stable as possible. But somewhere along that line, you got to bring in a new coach because you lost one. And he happens to be the new guy. But like I said, that's going to force this entire group to become a unit and grow together.
Brennan Gack there for Bucknell, a bit aggressive.
It's the ideal start for a North Carolina team coming into the season. Obviously with some high expectations. You're ranked 4th in the country, and rightfully so after getting to the College Cup last year, but they struggled offensively last year, and we just talked about they lose their top goal scorer from that team, and that's a big red, what are you going to do, question mark next to the offense, and within 5 minutes, you've got somebody getting you on the board. You know, when we talked with Carlos before this one, he said, I don't know that we have one individual who's going to be able to step up and fill in Gio's shoes, and a very dynamic player now in the MLS, but he felt like they had more options.
And Bucknell letting it get deep, sort of a bend not break sequence there, but North Carolina pushing it onto their side of the pitch.
Lawler right there, one of those freshmen. Talk about being thrown into the fire. Not just are you a true freshman, but hey, here's a top 5 team.
Another deep look there, and the deflection. Aiden Perry was shifting out of the direction of the shot toward the goal.
I think it was Rose that Carolina was targeting again. Owusu took one right to the midsection.
See Matthew Owusu, one of the players that Matt Brown really raved about in our talk with him earlier this week, is having a chance to break out. There really aren't established roles for a lot of the players on this Bucknell team as the corner is in and headed up and out of bounds.
I think that was probably a reoccurring theme from both of the coaches that we spoke to, and I think any coach that you talk to going into game one is they're not defined roles. Maybe some teams have a couple more than others, but you're trying to figure out that chemistry and what pieces work and what place is best.
It was the first true look for Santiago Herrera from North Carolina. 4 goals last season, 2nd on the team.
Yeah, I thought Carlos, the North Carolina head coach, really gave us a great example when he said with the 13 new players, there's a lot of talent there, and there are times in practice where they'll make a really nice play. Carolina going to get a nice set piece here on that foul. He said they'll make a nice play, and everybody else will look at him and say, well, that was a great individual play, but what is it doing for the team? And for North Carolina, and the way that he coaches, it is all about the team. And when you all buy in, like you saw that happen for them in the postseason last year, that's really when the cylinders start firing.
Cameron Fisher, Milo Garvanian, both there.
Garvanian took most of the free kicks last year for Carolina, so expect him to take this one, and it's close enough. He's got a strong enough leg. He can try and put this one on frame.
Small deke, now he sends it. Bucknell gets it out, but here's Fisher. All the way across. Fisher and Garvanian working well together. The through for Fisher, and it is not quite there. Just a bit off of that far post.
That was some really good work there from Carolina. Good one-touch passing.
Some very deliberate possession there for North Carolina, who is rewarded with the corner kick now. As you mentioned, Garvanian will issue that as he did from the other side moments ago. That one's a low liner. Ricochets out. Garvanian with it right back at his feet. A little too much traffic.
Murphy with a misclear, but good hustle to stay with it, challenge Garvanian and win that ball back.
And North Carolina rips possession away just past the middle of the field. This is something that we could have predicted would be tough for Bucknell. Much more experienced North Carolina team, but you give them too much more possession, could get lopsided in a hurry.
And that's another staple of a Carlos Samuano team, is controlling possession. If you control possession, you can control the tempo of the game. North Carolina lives and dies with that. So if you're Bucknell and you're going to resign to giving them possession and giving them possession, you're just asking for some trouble. And I noticed as they were coming across midfield, North Carolina, those orange jerseys were giving them a pretty wide breadth to just continue to attack and move forward.
You saw the call there, Cameron Fisher offside. He was running the sideline there. There, another one-touch takeaway for Bucknell, and North Carolina ends up with it again.
Good challenges there in the midfield from the Tar Heels.
And a missed touch there by Herrera. Bails out Bucknell on what looked like a pretty decent attack opportunity for North Carolina.
Those are the miscommunications that you deal with early in the season, where you're still trying to get that chemistry and that kind of unspokenness between teammates.
Now issues it forward, but mishit and out of bounds. What do the Bison need to do to continue to increase their possession per those touches there and have longer attempts with the ball at their feet?
I think it's what we were just talking about, and it's possession. It's when they get the ball at their feet, making sure they settle it and make those smart passes. Now, North Carolina is not making it easy. You can see right here, they are constantly applying pressure to whoever has the ball, but for the Bison, that's what they need to do, is just settle things down so that they can slow things down a little bit. I think for a young team, you can sometimes have a game sped up for you, and for a freshman, it's already on fast forward.
And that one was issued a little bit long, but we can see a bit of a trend, right? North Carolina ripping it away. That's 2 possessions in a row. Really, they've tried that long ball. The first time Cameron Fisher was offside. That second time, it was just way too long.
And that's a great through ball right there. I think North Carolina is smart in doing so. They're testing that young team and the communication. When you have those long passes, especially when you're switching field, that entire back unit has to communicate with each other. Otherwise, it's real easy to get somebody out of position.
A lot of early opportunities that have fizzled out so far for North Carolina, but a 1-goal lead. There's a cross down to Fisher, and he bounces it in.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. North Carolina tried the left side a little bit. Didn't quite like the looks that they were getting. Pulled it out. Switched fields. Got in behind the defense with that switch. And get their second goal of the night already.
2-0 North Carolina. And another look at this touch by Cameron Fisher.
See the hesitation, made sure he stayed on side, and just no communication there on that back line. And if you're Coachella, who's that left back there, you need to have somebody telling you, hey, ball is coming, or defender. He can't have an eye on both of them.
It comes off of a Tim Shells assist.
And I love Shells. Smells blood in the water, encouraging his team. Let's keep going. Let's keep that pressure on.
And right away from the resumption and kickoff, North Carolina with possession again.
One of the questions that I had for Carlos coming into this season was, last year you make another run to a College Cup, but it was kind of one that wasn't expected. They were an at-large team, but they still get to that Final Four. Can you carry that into this season? And he said, you know, I really don't know. I hope so, but at the same time, you're dealing with kids that are 18 to 22. Do they get that really nice flick there from Herrera? Do they get that mentality of, we should be there, we're expected to be there, and we don't need to put in the work? I'd say at least early on, that concern on his part can be just tamped down a little bit.
Well, one thing's for sure. This is not just a we want to hold possession type of performance so far. They are keeping possession, but it's deliberate, right? They are attacking, trying to score on Bucknell with basically every touch so far.
Even those balls, when they're switching field, most of them are going forward. You don't see them moving back very much.
Jonathan Jimenez, they call him JJ, to Joe Pickering. And that was Matt Edwards. Back to Riley Thomas, who takes a spill. And it's back to the Bison.
Now here's an opportunity if you're the Bison where on the throw-in, you can start from your back line. Keep possession. See if they can have the ball here at their feet for 90 seconds or so. It'll give them so much confidence, even if nothing comes of it in terms of chances. It also will give that back line a much needed breather, but there's a missed touch on the pass already.
Owusu mishandled it for Bucknell. They had a couple of passes on that back line, but anytime they try to advance the ball forward, they're having trouble against the Tar Heels.
And I'm going to put a lot of that, Darren, on it is the first game and they're very young, so that chemistry I talked about that you're trying to build, they're starting from scratch. There is no base for them to start from.
Back to Owusu.
See the
Perry has to clear it out, but it's on the ground.
The relentless pressure from those attackers.
Good placement there defensively for Bucknell, but Perry makes a run at it.
He did everything he could to try and keep that one in bounds and not give up this corner kick to North Carolina, so credit him for the hustle. Just couldn't quite get there in time. Ball spinning away from him, a little bit of a cue as it came off the defender, and he got there. Just couldn't quite get it underneath the body and keep it inside the white line.
So it will be another corner for North Carolina, this their third. Just a quick touch to Garvanian, lofts it back up. Zatarin with the in ball. And a bit too physical there.
I think that one actually caught a piece of Thomas's hand on the deflection.
So the handball on Riley Thomas sends it back Bucknell's way. Perry with the goal kick.
Thomas, one of those young players for North Carolina, has a bright future for the Tar Heels, just a sophomore, but you know, Carlos got, like we said earlier, has gotten to the College Cup over half the time he's been the head coach at North Carolina. It's because he keeps on replenishing that cupboard with a really, really good recruiting class year after year.
Now Bucknell trying to send one.
I like that thought there with Clark on the right side. Let's see if we can just kind of catch North Carolina sleeping a little bit and maybe sneak one over the top and get behind that back line.
It's a quick counter for North Carolina all the way back to the other end line and into the hands of Perry. And the Heels with it again. See all that congestion by Bucknell in the middle of the field.
But if you noticed, as North Carolina was coming up through that congestion, the orange jerseys weren't really moving much, and it's because the passes were so quick from North Carolina.
Matt Edwards unable to advance it, tried to take it his own way. North Carolina has been good with limited touches so far, and he tried to make a run himself.
Murphy with some solid defense on this one as the ball gets out to Edwards' feet. Just closing off that end line, gets a touch on it. No foul there, but it does give North Carolina another corner there.
Carolina corner kick taken by number 17, Cam Fisher.
It'll be Cameron Fisher this time. The junior zips it in. Hits it right back. Has a second chance, and the header is in. North Carolina up 3-0, and that's Santiago Herrera's first goal of the season.
Way to just stick with this one if you're North Carolina. Wasn't the greatest strike by Fisher off the corner, but it comes right back to him. Everybody for the Tar Heels stays in the box, and they stay alert. You see Herrera calling for it with the right hand, and as soon as that one is put into play, makes his move.
A beautifully placed in, just past the defender. Clark there, you saw, was right there with Herrera.
Herrera is one of those weapons offensively that I think Carlos is going to expect to have a bigger season and a bigger impact than he did a year ago. We're talking about a guy who had 4 goals and was the second leading scorer for Carolina.
3-0 advantage for North Carolina now in the early going here in Chapel Hill. And a foul there will slow us down.
The ref was going to let that one play with continuance just because they were around the penalty area, and then as soon as Bucknell touches it, they blow the whistle. They'll bring it back for the free kick.
And a substitution for Bucknell. Eddie Perez Pelaez set to come in. That's Colin Murphy down with an injury.
One thing I will tell you, folks, is it's the beginning of the year and you think, all right, everybody's healthy and fresh. The legs are not to full strength yet. And you're also dealing with a very hot, humid night here in August in North Carolina. These guys are going to get the energy zapped a little bit quicker than you'll see a little bit later in the year when they're in their real prime peak physical condition.
Looks like Murphy's going to come off. Patrick O'Hara in for him as well. O'Hara, one of the team captains, 1 goal a season ago. But a very, very capable scorer. Scored 5 goals in 2019 prior to the setback, the step back last year. But Matt Brown told us earlier this week that it was important for O'Hara to get that 1 goal for his confidence back coming into this season, because he got it in the spring.
And I do think that last year, with it being an odd year with the way the schedule was because of the pandemic, it's kind of hard to read too much into one season.
Garvanian with his left, the wall there to deflect it. And an unsuccessful loft on the tail end there.
So that's those guys on the wall that sacrifice their body.
Another high intensity situation rather for Bucknell defensively. They just seemed to have no reprieve. That might be a glimpse of it. Mishandled on the throw-in. Bucknell about as deep as they've gotten, but the offside call gives it back to North Carolina.
I like that possession there from Bucknell all the way up until the last pass. Instead of taking the ultra aggressive, trying to cross that one, leave it off for Clark. He's uncovered coming down that sideline. He'll have an easier time in a much more open window in order to try and cross that into the box.
Shells from the back. It's poked away. Here's Clark. Centers things up for the Bison. One touch Clark, and he goes down. And he'll stay with Bucknell.
Going to get Garvanian for coming in a little bit late on that challenge. See the pressure North Carolina is just relentless with. Part of the reason that they're able to do that, Darren, is because of the depth that they've got. They're able to bring in fresh legs, and they don't really lose much from the starters to the subs.
Set piece down to Clark. Just outside the box, the cross is deflected. Good hold defensively there by North Carolina.
Last couple minutes have been good for Bucknell, though. They've gotten that ball down into the North Carolina third, have put a little bit of pressure on that back line.
Owusu with some space. Quick touch toward the middle. And Gack gives it back to the back line. Gack listed as a midfielder. He's been playing pretty consistently in the back. That's about as far as we've seen him come up in the formation so far for Bucknell.
They run that 4-4-2 formation, but you never know with coaches and teams now quite how they're going to form in the back line, the midfield. Do you go more of a diamond? Do you just put them straight across? There's a lot of different ways to play it.
Some subs in for North Carolina. Lucas Del Rosario.
Yeah, last year, especially with the split season, which is something that Carlos has really been an advocate for and pushed for, thinks that it's a better college model. And last year, he talked about the rule with these subs. And he's not a huge fan of it, but if it's a rule, why not take advantage of it? And it's almost like taking a page out of his counterpart's book, Anson Dorrance with UNC Women, where you almost see line changes come in for them where they get those fresh legs. And by the time you get into the second half, they have completely run teams into the ground.
In addition to the fifth-year senior Del Rosario, a couple of transfers that Somwano really likes in Mark Winhofer and Garrett Wintermeyer.
That's the thing with Carlos throughout his tenure here at Carolina. It's not just going out and getting top recruits. It's also getting transfer pieces that fit well within his system.
Garrett Wintermeyer in particular, coming from Bradley University, a grad transfer. Somwano mentioned him in the conversation of, in addition to Herrera, who could step up and be an impactful goal scorer for the Tar Heels this season. Brennan Gack brings down Garvanian. It's a little bit of schooling there. Del Rosario, quick cross, but into traffic. And it's parried away. Mark Winhofer there, getting tied up with Herchala of Bucknell.
I'm not turning on.
Bucknell tries the deep ball. Back to North Carolina it goes.
I feel like, Darren, Bucknell is starting to settle into the game a little bit. You can just kind of see that they're playing a little bit more comfortable. After that first minute where they were able to get one through and actually on goal for Alex Smurr, felt like it woke up North Carolina and it caught the Bison kind of by surprise.
Look at this, a physical move by Del Rosario. And it's not quite able to be put in by Wintermeyer, who was right there. Aiden Perry had gotten out of the way. Another chance for North Carolina. And just pushing through the congestion there provided by Bucknell. Not bad defensively, but at some point, North Carolina zips the ball in there and it turns into a bit of a pinball.
So Lucas Del Rosario throughout his career has been a starter for North Carolina, and this dynamic individual effort that he just had, weaving through that traffic, that's exactly why he has been a starter at times for Carlos Somoano. I think last year they kind of figured out that his energy and that ability coming off the bench is a real nice spark for them.
The 50-year senior just willing his way in the direction of the goal there.
Now, he's a player that coming into last year, Carlos had talked about, he's got the skill set to have a career at the professional level. Didn't really put things together last year, and it was a pandemic year. It was hard for guys to stay in shape in the offseason. Everybody had to kind of do their own thing. But I think with a full year here for Del Rosario, coming off of having had the season in normal training, you're probably going to see that potential come to fruition here for him in his final college season.
1 goal, 1 assist last season for Del Rosario. But I think we're seeing it play out, Kyle. This stands to be a much different North Carolina team here in 2021. Already 3-0 here in the first half against Bucknell. That's as many goals as they scored in a single game all last year.
Yeah, when we talked with Carlos, he said, we don't have Milo. We don't have that dynamic guy who we can look at and say, we need you to go create and get us a goal. But he felt like they had more options, more guys were going to be in a better position to help them out offensively, which ultimately, to me, I think is the better version. Instead of having that superstar goal scorer, have multiple. It makes it harder to defend.
Another substitution for Bucknell. That's Sebastian Paz, the sophomore forward out of Miami. You alluded to the Bison sort of settling into this game. How much of that seems to be North Carolina pushing the tempo a little bit less now that they've got this 3-goal lead?
I don't know that they're pushing any less. I think that Bucknell, when they have gotten possession, have been able to keep it just a little bit longer, which has made it seem like the Tar Heels haven't had it in the attacking third as much.
How about that? Jonathan Jimenez backing Matthew Owusu down toward the end line and creating out of nowhere another corner kick, or excuse me, a goal kick situation that pressured Owusu to kick it off of Jimenez.
The other thing, Darren, is that pressure that North Carolina has applied, Bucknell had up until that spot there, handled it better in terms of clearing. So it wasn't giving Carolina prime opportunity.
Saw Matt Brown with his new assistant Cam Olson on the Bucknell sideline. Skips away, will be a toss-in for Bucknell. 3-0, North Carolina with the lead here in Chapel Hill. Darren Vaught, Kyle Stroud with you on ACC Network Extra. The Tar Heels again with high possession. Pickering over passes intended for Del Rosario there.
Didn't quite measure that one up, was looking to get a toe on it to have it come back over the defender. And if it worked out, he would have had himself a nice little 5 or 6 yard berth of space.
Any of those 50-50 balls won by Bucknell so far today, but there you go. North Carolina rips it right away. Jimenez, too many defenders up there.
That's just a good job of getting in the way but not making contact as a defender. Just get him off his line so they can't stay stride for stride with the guy who was marking him. Here comes Bawa. They just keep on rolling off the bench for the Tar Heels.
It has been relentlessly sending in fresh legs. He'll replace Jimenez, who's been doing a lot of running at the front of that attack. Ernest Bawa played in 11 games last season. Here it is, right to Bawa. Pickering unable to get a pass back in. Another one that just gets by Del Rosario. Nice one touch, a little too much on it. Not enough space to operate. Bucknell, anytime they get a medium-sized window, North Carolina turns it into a small one quickly.
Good job by Clark just to get that foot in there so they couldn't get it through to Del Rosario. But like you said, anytime Bucknell gets possession, especially in that midfield, not able to work through that Carolina congestion.
And again, North Carolina regaining possession and just sending it deep every time here. Sometimes it's overkicked, sometimes it's not. It works out in their favor. Yaya Bakayoko in the game in favor of Tim Shells. Does a lot of the little things right there in the middle of the field for this North Carolina team. Already with an assist today. Del Rosario tipped it with his fingers. And that is the way that will be called. So rather than a sideline throw, it will be a free kick near the sideline. There it is, another North Carolina win on a 50-50 ball. Pickering with the cross, tries to zip one in.
I like that decision, though. Just outside of the box. Go ahead and let one go. You've got enough guys that are moving forward. Defense is in transition. If it got through, either you've got the potential for the goal there or maybe a loose ball rebound.
Aiden Perry, another impressive effort. The goalkeeper for Bucknell trying to save it from being another corner for the Tar Heels. That one issued in, first touch by Bucknell, and it ricochets outside of the box. Winhofer. Some nice footwork to get an opening and try it underneath. Pickering the deflection, and that one is lifted to the top of the back of the net. What a goal scored. Ernest Bawa, who had North Carolina's lone goal in an exhibition against #1 Marshall, gets his first official of the season.
And this is another one of those situations where North Carolina just didn't give up on the play. The initial attack was pushed back, ball comes out. They play it in over the top. Look at the angle that Bawa had to take here to get this ball settled and then up and over Perry. Not much of a window, but struck that one true. You said earlier, 3 goals was the season high in a game last year for North Carolina. In a half, they've already got more than that this year.
It's been an impressive showing. Not quite 38 minutes into this one.
Substitution for Bucknell, number 9, and for the Turtles, number 41, Chris Sullivan.
Meanwhile, Chris Sullivan on and replacing Joe Pickering for North Carolina. Rosario fighting his way through, wanted a call, did not get it, but fret not, because North Carolina gets it right back.
4 goals, 5 assists on those 4 goals. I think that's the thing that's going to make Carlos Zambrano smile the most.
Still a very focused attack by North Carolina. Up until that last touch, obviously, but we've seen a lot of those. They're going to work out far less than they don't. You mentioned the things that Carlos Zambrano might enjoy most about this. Just one shot. It was on goal for Bucknell, but just one shot so far. That defensive pressure for the Tar Heels has really been the reason they've had these opportunities to push.
I think for Carlos, if he ultimately had it his way, his team, and it most of the time is built this way, is offensively it is a team-oriented team, and defensively they are going to lock down and they are going to make it as hard as possible on you to get any type of an opportunity. Five minutes to go here in this half. You're down 4-0. If you're Bucknell, go ahead and sell out. See if you can get some opportunity, some momentum offensively here going into the half.
How much of that factor is also in North Carolina's mindset, though?
Oh, I'm sure that's something that their coaching staff is keeping an eye on and keeping in their ear about.
I mean, they are not laying back.
Even though they don't have the split season like last year where they can kind of work on some things early in the year, you're still figuring out your team right now. So these guys that are on the field are newly into the game. They're trying to prove that they should get some playing time. Well, the guys in front of you put up 4. What do you have? That's going to kind of motivate them without really having the coaches have to say much too.
Another corner for North Carolina. This time Mark Winhofer sends it, and Aiden Perry, a risk there coming off of his line, but it favors Bucknell. Let that lofted pass. Perry the save. Second chance is there for North Carolina, though. and it is 5-0. That was Chris Sullivan, who just recently entered. The Tar Heels lead it by 5. They've had 5 different players put goals in the back of the net.
Nobody marked the grad student out of Germany, Garrett Wintermeyer. Watch him come off the line. Nobody there. They're looking for an offsides. The ball, at least when I saw it live, looked like it was played on time. And again, North Carolina just not giving up on a play, crashing in on the net. They get that loose ball and put it in. Great reaction there from Perry just to stop the 1v1 shot.
Had a pretty good shot at stopping Sullivan's as well, but the angle did not favor him. By that point, Perry was lateral too. So in the interest of making his body as big as possible, he was at a disadvantage. 5 goals for North Carolina, their most since 6 versus Harvard on September 6th in 2019. And a second half to go.
And a whole nother 45. There's some high hopes for the Carolina football team. I think the soccer team said, hey, we're going to put a touchdown up there ourselves today.
Quick touches all evening so far for the Tar Heels. Not a lot of ball handling done by individuals.
You see the Bison trying to put some pressure on Carolina here.
Clark pokes it away, but inconsequential. Physicality there. Keeps it with North Carolina. Jack Roberto. Del Rosario with the handles again. He's really the only example of a Tar Heel making defenders miss when he and only he is handling the ball.
He's had a couple of good runs with the ball at his feet. Good pressure there. I think Perry just hurt himself.
And it pays off. Perry with the save despite perhaps the injury. Another one deflected and knocked away, but a second chance there.
I think the offside flag was going to go up on that last touch.
So offside negates the potentially 6th goal for North Carolina, and Perry favoring looks to be his hip.
And you could see on his clear attempt that he did something to that leg hip area and then immediately had to go into reactionary mode and is diving all over the place.
Well, here's as Aiden Perry gets checked up on. We'll have another look at it. That's Bennett Schwartz, the junior, his backup.
And watch his leg as he goes to send this ball out. The right leg caught the turf a little bit. I don't know what happened there, Darren, but immediately has to recover from there to then trying to stop another goal from occurring.
And you see him favoring it just before making that save. Right back up, his hand is on his right hip. He saves another, and it was just ultimately too much prior to the offside call. I mean, a valiant effort through the injury by Aiden Perry.
And you could just tell by his face and the body language, he is in some serious discomfort there. You really hope that it's, for anybody, nothing serious. But we talked about his story at the beginning of this game after a freshman year, stepped away from the team, wasn't on it. Sophomore and junior year, comes back to the team and gets his first collegiate appearance. Not even just start, but first time ever in a game is here tonight.
I wanted to get the nod at goalkeeper from interim head coach Matt Brown there as you see him talking up Bennett Schwartz to come in and relieve Perry. To get the nod from Brown is saying something because that's the position that he played during his career as a player, was goalkeeper.
It's got to be somewhat encouraging here to see that he's able to get up under his own power and for the most part be able to walk off here.
Either a lot of pain and or a lot of emotion from Aiden Perry there. Always tough to tell which one, or mix of the two, but hopefully he's okay. With under a minute left in this first half, a new goalkeeper for Bucknell, trailing 5-0. Again, that last one that went in did not count because of an offside. Schwartz played in 6 games a season ago.
And obviously not much time for him to warm up to get into this one. Bucknell going to take their time here. He'll have halftime to be able to get himself warmed up and ready to go for the second half.
Really, he'll have the half to get more loose. Perhaps a good thing as that one bounces into Smur's arms.
It was a little bit tricky. There was a deflection as that one got through some traffic.
Not a lot of action for Alex Smur so far today as he boots it into the night. And the horn sounds signaling the half. Kyle, a dominant effort so far for North Carolina. 5 goals. More than any goals in any game last season, and they've all 5 been scored by separate Tar Heels players.
Relentless pressure from North Carolina, both when they've had the ball as well as when Bucknell has been trying to clear, has been the biggest factor to 5 goals for North Carolina. But also credit them because
for Bucknell, what do they have to do to create?
And interestingly enough is they came in the first minute of the first half and the last minute of the first half. Those 43 in between, they've got to find some more opportunities. And I think the biggest way they're going to do that is how they handle clearing the ball, how they handle that pressure from North Carolina, and can they maintain possession a little bit longer to work that ball up through the midfield.
Well, look, we hyped up North Carolina goalkeeper Alex Smur entering this contest. They have not challenged him much. We haven't gotten to see much on display for the preseason performer to watch, or watch list performer for North Carolina.
And you know, this isn't to take away from Alex Smur, because when he is tested, he usually comes up with the answer for North Carolina. But he wasn't tested in that first half, and a lot of the season won't be tested because they're so good in front of him. That back 4 that comes back from last year that did not give up many goals, one of the better defensive units in the country. And the longer you play together, the better as a unit you become.
So there is going to be a yellow card issued against Bucknell.
14 seconds into the second half. That may be the quickest yellow card I've seen out of a halftime. But the referee, I think, kind of feeling the way that this one is going. Bucknell maybe coming out trying to make a statement out of halftime, and he just wants to make sure everything stays under control.
Good defensive stand there against Ernest Bawa. Yellow card against Brennan Gack. We've seen him involved in a lot of plays defensively. He's a very physical player.
And he did get a warning, a verbal warning in the first half. So there's not many times that after you've been talked to by the referee, they're going to come and talk to you again. It's usually pretty quick to that card.
North Carolina, meanwhile, picking up right where it left off in the first half. And Schwartz able to go up and reel in that corner.
He read that one well.
Off the foot off of Mark Winhofer. Quicker movement for Bucknell there. Lost possession, quickly regains.
Well, and one of the way to keep that pressure off the person who has the ball at their feet, we saw North Carolina do it a lot, quick passes so that that defense can't react and get set up.
Bit of indigestion there defensively for Bucknell. They escape though, and we'll have the throw in here. Jack Roberto. Sends it across mid-pitch. Quickly recovered by North Carolina.
Something we talked about in the first half as subs started coming in for both teams that we'll keep an eye on as this one progresses here in the second half. But how are those legs for Bucknell? Because they've been on defense for so much, and Carolina's just got a deeper roster. 7 subs used by Carlos Samuano in those first 45.
Sullivan had it taken away, but it ends up with North Carolina. Gets it on the throw in, a touchback. More of the same for North Carolina, not a lot of dribbling. And that one goes straight out of bounds. Sure what was going on with Garvani in there. But needless to say, Kyle, this looks much more like a cushiony lead North Carolina attack or approach, if you will.
You know, I was just thinking that as they were moving that ball around on the far side around midfield, it seemed like, at least in that attack there, that North Carolina is going to sit and look for the opening versus being as super uber aggressive as they were in that first half. And I wonder if some of that comes from the coaching staff. Not that they're taking their foot off the gas pedal, but try to find offense from a different spot. You can easily get down in that corner switch. We've seen them do it and do it with a lot of success, but you're not going to always have games where you're able to break through that second and third line and have those kind of opportunities. So can you do it from midfield? Can you have kind of a piece that's not a set piece at the same time?
Many of the starters who had exited prior to the conclusion of the first half back in for Bucknell. Chris Mazur was the one that had the set piece there right to Alex Smurr. Meanwhile, for North Carolina, a lot of the substitutions that they made remain in the game.
And I think as long as this one stays as out of reach as it currently is, Carlos is probably going to get some run from some guys that typically wouldn't. There's another yellow card coming.
That looked like it was issued to Zach Hurchala. That is, in fact, the ruling. He's just late on the tackle.
You know, we'll take a look at this replay, and then I'll get to my point about Carlos and those subs. Not just late, but also played the player and not the ball. That's an easy one right in front of the referee. When we spoke with Carlos, we talked about the exhibition games that they had played, the going back to a one season in one season versus the split like last year and how that will affect things. And he talked about how last year in the fall, he's able to kind of experiment and really figure out what pieces fit well in what spots and who worked best together on the pitch. You don't really have that opportunity. You're into a game and this counts against your record. So he's got to come in, and even though you're going to try and experiment and figure things out, you've got to play to win. Well, when you put up 5 in the first half, it's going to give your coach a little bit of leeway to experiment more than he normally would. Especially knowing that, unlike last year where you had the split season, you're playing 1 game a week. It's a pretty quick turnaround, just a couple of days, and you've got a VCU team coming in.
Carlos Somwano, .727 his win percentage, now in his 11th season with North Carolina. So, I mean, you mentioned that,
I think that's
that approach and pedigree. Certainly not somebody you're going to second guess when he offers a suggestion that, hey, I know we're splitting the season, but let's do things this way.
Yeah, you go to a school like North Carolina with the success that they've had, especially under Carlos, you're going to listen to what he says and don't second guess it because he's gotten the results.
That .727 win percentage, 4th among active coaches. Ernest Bawa, first goal of the season in the first half. And a reset here. We did not see a lot of this out of North Carolina in the first half. And even if the attempt was going to be unsuccessful and it wasn't a high probability attack or pass toward the goal, they took it. And
I think typically that's what you'll see, but like I just alluded to, they're going to try some different things, try and attack from some different angles. There's a great look at the College Cup appearances as well as national champions. The 11 cut off, but that one in Carlos' first season.
There's another late hard hit. This time just a foul. Goes against Chris Mazer. Bucknell trying to come away with one. Through ball on the ground, knocked away, but Sullivan puts it in far post, just out of the reach of Schwartz. It's goal number 6 for North Carolina, and he becomes the first with a brace.
What a night for Sullivan. He's been on the pitch for 18 minutes, and he's got a couple of goals. Really good vision. From back near midfield, this ball is thrown in, and just put that one on a line. Good effort, even though the defender was behind to get a piece of it, but not enough to keep it away from getting to the foot.
Got away from Herchala there. Sullivan, a tight window, sending that one all the way to the opposite side of the goal.
And I liked, if you saw, as he came back to the ball, went with it. He didn't try and settle that ball, let its momentum go so that he could time it up there. It kept that distance between him and the defender.
We mentioned that game earlier, the last time that North Carolina had 6. It was against Harvard on September 6th, 2019. They've now, of course, matched that.
Get the research team going in the back room. Let's find out when the last time they had more. It's not often in a soccer match that you see more than a handful of goals, let alone getting into 7-8 territory.
And this again is a team that did not amass more than 3 goals in a singular game all of last season. A good team, a College Cup team, but hardly an offensive juggernaut.
No, not even remotely close to it. It was actually the Achilles heel of the team last year through the regular season. And even in the ACC tournament, they lost in extra time to Notre Dame 1-0. They got into the postseason, some things started to really click for them in terms of the NCAA tournament. And that was part of the reason that they were able to go and make that run to the College Cup, even though they were an at-large bid.
A couple of players slow to get up. It will be a yellow card against Garrett Wintermeyer of North Carolina on that tackle.
After a pretty clean first half, you're seeing the physicality step up. That one's tough, but because you've given a couple yellow out, it's a fairly aggressive play there. You're just going to have to keep the line that they drew when they put a red card or a yellow card out 30 seconds into this second half.
Well, it looked like some hesitation on the part of Wintermeyer, whether or not to sell out with the sliding tackle or stay upright. And I think that's where he got caught in some trouble, and it was more of a tripping motion than he wanted it to be. Ask and you shall receive. Kyle Stroud. 7-0.
Research team.
7-0 in 2016 at home against UNC Asheville. The last time that North Carolina put up 7.
We pay him the big bucks to make us look good for a reason.
It's a good quick find by Matt Krause producing today. Another tackle. And a follow-up nugget. Matt Krause, look at you go. That's 7, the most that they've ever scored under head coach Carlos Somoana. So potentially, well, I won't say, right? As of right now, it's tied for the 2nd highest offensive output under Carlos Somoana.
Set pieces is where they've really done some damage, North Carolina.
Vanian, a specialist in that regard, lofts it up and it skips away.
Just missed Wintermeyer running in.
Again, Wintermeyer got a lot of praise from Carlos Somoana earlier this week when we chatted with the head coach. He's got a great frame for that type of opportunity. 6'3" tall, he's listed. He's got a broad frame, able to muscle his way down there in the box.
Go back to the early years of Carlos as the head coach here at North Carolina, and it's always been a staple of his to have those big bodies for those set pieces. Go back to the Hume twins. Walker and Tucker, they both stood at 6'7". One of them was a defender, but you get a corner piece, bring them up. That's going to be a tough spot to mark.
And the 50-50 ball won by Wintermeyer there, but the ball will revert direction as it's offside. Del Rosario was the intended in game there.
Just a couple of offsides. Oh, pretty close. Looked like he was stride for stride with the defender.
It was as soon.
We're not exactly parallel with him like that, side judges.
Shot, right? But the difference there, Del Rosario continued forward, obviously toward the goal, and then the defender there was trying to stop with Wintermeyer and win the header ball. So I think that was just enough of a window for Del Rosario to get called.
Here's that pressure continuing to give Bucknell problems on the clear attempts. Instead of working it up through the midfield, just going to take the long goal kick out, and Carolina takes possession back.
You see that cluster on the opposite sideline at midfield. That is 7 North Carolina substitutions which will enter on the next dead ball. They are clearing the bench.
They had 7 subs in the first half that came in to spell the starters. And as things have just continued to open up, not really a surprise to me at all that Carlos is going to go a little bit deeper into his bench.
Bennett Schwartz there's gotten a couple of touches so far. In goal for Bucknell. Who's their backup entering today and was called upon after Aiden Perry, the senior, was injured, had to exit in the last minute of the first half of action. That's a position that was not necessarily settled for Bucknell as early as this week when we talked to interim head coach Matt Brown. So this perhaps an opportunity for Bennett Schwartz to shine a little bit. And obviously, whatever the diagnosis is for Aiden, his future playing time might depend on that as well. How about this? Wintermeyer gets through. The save by Schwartz, and Del Rosario tackled in the box, no call.
I think that was just a good, clean tackle. Got there before Del Rosario did. Nice save by Schwartz there. And really, Darren, a good job by the Bucknell defense that time. We've seen a couple of different times where Carolina has gotten the rebound and gotten a goal off of that. That time, it was a one-and-done situation.
Del Rosario with a little deke gets over on the outside and has it knocked away.
Maybe a corner for Carolina as the line change comes in, but take a look at this one again. Good job of settling that one, spinning away from the defender. Save made, but because the defense is alert and in position, just able to beat out Del Rosario. Otherwise, it probably is a 7-0 game.
And here come those 7 substitutions for North Carolina. Bennett Schwartz aligns his defense for the corner kick.
I think Carlos and his coaching staff have got to really love what they saw from those subs coming in the first half in a game that already had a couple of goals on the board, but they continued to widen that gap and push.
Cameron Fisher from the corner headed away. Great reflexes there by Alex Clark of Bucknell. Wintermeyer has it stopped and knocked away into the other direction. So a good stand there by Bucknell following the great save by Schwartz. Fisher applying some pressure. And there it is, booted out of bounds.
Got that ball from Clark and just tried to flick it over the defender's head. Good position, though, by the Bison defense on that one. That is one thing I have seen an improvement in this second half there. And you asked me what was going to be different. Bucknell's defense, the communication on that defensive side has been much improved in this second 45.
Well, Matt Brown encouraged there, as you just saw, by the defensive play so far. Had to like the save by Schwartz. We mentioned earlier Brown, as a player, was a goalkeeper. Actually played in Southampton FC's academy as a youth player, along stars such as, get this, Gareth Bale and Theo Walcott. So at one point in time, Matt Brown, a pretty impressive youth player.
Yeah, those are some guys that definitely have done some things, even if you're just able to kind of get some knowledge from them now as a coach to be able to relate to players. Yeah, and in a game like this where they're down 5-0 at the half, at no point ever is a coach going to admit this or even relay it to their team. Game is probably out of hand. What are we going to find for building blocks?
Some congestion there. A back foot flip attempt by Alex Rose. He almost had his second goal of the day. That would have been nifty.
Good congestion in front of the goal here. Rose doing a good job shielding that defender off. Just mistimed the flick by about a hair.
I don't know that Schwartz was necessarily expecting it, which left that side of the goal wide open.
It's a great thought there from Rose, and in a 6-0 game, a thought that you can go ahead and try and make something happen on.
What the header out of the box there. Smurr coming off of his line, making a play, but Bucknell still with it.
Well, Smart coming off his line there and out of the box to make a play on that one is what I talked about in the beginning. He's got such a good feel for the game. Saw this coming, saw the whole play, knew that Clark was going to be there, possibly have an opportunity, said, I'm just going to go out and take care of this right now.
The dexterity to put his head on it as well. I mean, not something you see out of an everyday goalkeeper.
Nice switch.
Right back. Pickering with an attempt with a lot of bite on it. I'm not sure that that's what he was intended.
I think he should have probably flicked that one, get it up over the defense towards the back post more.
Rose sends it over to Antonio Lopez.
Lopez on the pitch for the first time. He was one of those 7 subs that just recently came in.
One touch by Fisher. Jimenez can't control it. And it'll go to North Carolina with deep into the corner with a throw in. Rose and Lopez go back and forth. Jimenez helps out. Lopez back to mid-pitch. And again, North Carolina resetting. Not worried about any kind of urgency around the amount of time left. One touch, Cameron Fisher puts in the cross, and a galloping attempt sails over off the foot of Rose. That's a couple of really close shots that would have been highlight reel makes for sure.
And I think that one is probably one that he wants back. That one he could have settled, gotten on frame, and with all the movement going on, easily would have had himself a goal.
Schwartz boots it away. Bucknell wins a 50-50 and then almost immediately gives it away, and an aggressive tackle there as well ensures that it will stay with North Carolina.
Yellow card issued to Bucknell number 12, Eddie Perez.
And there another yellow card issued to Bucknell, Eddie Perez Pelayez. The recipient this time. Bit of a back and forth there with the official. Counter here for Bucknell. Too many white jerseys.
And that's the thing, North Carolina defense aware enough, even though that ball stays in the attacking third, as soon as it switches past midfield, they're able to retreat and get back to their line.
Lopez with some space. Swings it.
Carolina's still switching fields a lot, trying to keep that defense off balance, catch them in a bad switch.
Pickering Rose sends it to the outside. Nobody was exactly where he wanted them. Here we go again. From right to left on the attack.
Carolina kind of trying to bait Bucknell here as they're sitting back just to pull them out, stretch that defense a little bit. See Clark, the only one in midfield, all other 10 forced back and in a defensive mode.
This is beginning to look a lot more like a North Carolina holding pattern. And if Bucknell gives you something, and there's a wide open opportunity, of course you're going to take it, but if the Tar Heels content to dribble it out. Could be wrong. Cameron Fisher with a strike, and it's well wide. And that's going to end the day for Alex Smurr. Relatively stress-free one. In comes Jake Schick for his first collegiate action in place of Smurr, the team captain.
Smurr had to make a save in the first minute as well as the 45th of the first half, and then this second half, only time that he got involved in anything is when he came out of the box completely to head that ball away.
Substitution for the Tar Heels, number 14, Victor Olofsson, number 36, Schick, and number 35, Sam Moore.
Victor Olofsson also in. The Swedish midfielder for North Carolina. Sam Moore in place of Riley Thomas as well. And there you see that substitution again. Sebastian Paz back in for Bucknell as we saw toward the end of the first half. Perez Pelayez tries it from the corner, but it's deflected away.
I think in that situation, Darren, Perez Pelayez need to realize he doesn't have a lot of pressure on him. There wasn't a need to cross on the one touch. He could have settled, picked his head up, and got a better strike on that ball. And those are the things that after this game, the Bucknell coaching staff is going to go back and show them those types of plays. These are the ones that we can build on, get ourselves a better opportunity and a better look.
It'll be a quick turnaround for a quality opponent for the Bison in Wake Forest.
And one that probably is going to be a little bit angry if that 2-0 VCU lead holds up and they end up losing their home opener.
Look at this run here. all alone and just bobbled. The pass was back behind Jonathan Jimenez. Otherwise, that was just going to be an easy one-touch and flick it wherever you want because you've got the entire goal at your disposal.
And I think this is one that Carlos is probably going to show and not be happy about it afterwards. You're up 6-0, but this is just too much unselfishness there. Somebody in that situation, that close to the goal, has got to be the one that says, all right, we're going to score it right here. And I think Herrera, who is one of the goal scorers, made that first pass, probably should have just put it on frame. You have two more crashing in behind in case that ball doesn't find the back of the net.
And there's a push against Jimenez. That is just inside the box, and it will result in a penalty kick.
That's just a frustration penalty. Patrick O'Hara came off the bench, has been out there for over 30 minutes, so he's been in. And at a certain point, things just build. You know what, Darren? I don't know that there was a lot there. Especially when you slow it down, it doesn't really look as bad.
Here's Jimenez on the PK, a goal earlier tonight already, and he puts that one comfortably in the corner of the net to make it 7-0, North Carolina.
Just slow walked this one until the keeper tipped his hand. Feel like a lot of times people can overthink a penalty kick. It didn't look like that was the case there. And now you can say it. They have matched the season high. The total under Carlos Zambrano was 7 in a game.
First time they've reached 7 since 2016 against UNC Asheville at home.
Because it was a penalty kick, the extra point was good.
That's right. The football was a good analogy to put your attach your carriage to. It was a good horse to attach that to. Because I'm thinking Hubert. We saw Hubert Davis earlier. There's not a good basketball analogy there. They're going to score well more than 7.
Well, and especially because this sport outside of our country is called football everywhere else, so it made sense.
So the final from Winston-Salem, that 2-0 lead held for Virginia Commonwealth.
Not just held, but for 20 minutes, they had to play a man down because of a red card. It helps when you have that cushion and you can kind of just back in. It doesn't make it easy, but it at least gives you a little bit of comfort there. Huge win for the Rams. They're going to be coming into Chapel Hill Sunday really riding high.
That attempt right into the arms of Bennett Schwartz.
A nice job by Schwartz to hold on to that one. That ball short hopped in, very easy to skip into the midsection and bounce away.
Olafson gives outside. Here's Herrera again. Tries to put it near goal that time with the more horizontal look at it.
I'm going to take the connection between these 4 teams one step further and into last year, because now Wake Forest has lost 2 straight games as they were eliminated from the NCAA tournament by the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Look at you.
Can Bucknell make it 3 in a row for Wake Forest?
Team captain Alex Clark back in. We have not seen his brother Akeem for North Carolina so far today.
Carlos did tell us that there were a few players that he wasn't sure if he'd be able to get in there today or not because they were restricted on minutes. Just some guys who got sick and with only a few weeks to get ready for the season just weren't quite up to speed yet.
I think across the sport, conditioning stood to be a challenge anyway.
Yeah.
With the short off season. So I I would suspect most coaches are going to take that type of approach.
It's always tough to get ready for a year because no matter how much practicing you do, it's not the same as playing in a game. Game speed is just different. But you add into the short preseason for them to kind of get up to speed and going. Offside, bottom of the screen.
Here's a look at Akeem. Still in his penny on the sideline there. That makes for an interesting conversation. You mentioned the bragging rights element before kickoff. I mean, yeah, North Carolina, your team won. But Akeem, you know, you didn't play. I think Alex has got maybe at least something to push back a little bit with. It's not as indisputable.
So I'm going to take a guess here from that comment. You're a younger brother?
Yes.
Yeah, because as the older brother, that's the kind of stuff you come up with, because in the end, my team won. I don't really care what other things you have to say.
I'm the youngest of 3, so it's good psychological work on your part.
I've heard it from my younger brother our entire lives. He started saying it, and I was like, why does he sound like Adam? This is weird.
A few more substitutions for North Carolina. See Garrett Kessel making his way in for the first time today. He'll grab Tim Shells.
These are important minutes for these guys because it's going to help them immensely in their growth and development.
Yaya Bakayoko in for the second time today.
Now you're talking about guys that, unless injuries were to happen, probably aren't going to be considered by the coaching staff to be impactful players this year, but down the road they will be next year and the year following.
Julian Hinojosa, the third substitution for North Carolina there, in for the first time today.
It's also important minutes for those impact players. You know, you're talking about a normal scheduled season where it's 2.5 months long. You're playing twice every single week. Every minute that you can take off of your total minutes played that don't affect the team in a negative way are going to be really big to saving legs at the end of the year. And as Carlos said, I'm okay with this team coming in wanting to win 2 more games than they did last year, as long as they don't think that they're entitled to it. If you factor that in, you're playing a whole lot more than just 2 months of two-a-days. You got the ACC tournament as well as the NCAA that you're expecting to make deep runs in.
Inside the box. Some confusion as to whether or not who was going to take that. A nice save by Bennett Schwartz, but it rolls out and will be a corner for North Carolina. He's looked good. I think Matt Brown has to be pleased with him.
He has, and I think this is why like you had said, nothing was determined coming into this season, into this game, in the goalkeeper situation for Bucknell, but got just enough on this one. Almost came over his hand, but kept that arm strong enough.
Hesitant look there by Jonathan Jimenez, who seems to be a little hobbled afterward. It looks to be okay. Now Cameron Fisher with the corner. It rattles around and is cleared by Bucknell.
Red in the needle with that pass.
They are reversing sides of the field again.
One thing to keep an eye on with North Carolina too is don't just watch the guy with the ball, watch everybody else in a white jersey, constantly moving, circling in and around position, trying to get that Bucknell defense out of position and open something up for them.
Cameron Fisher going back and forth. It ends up at Olafson's feet. He doesn't get a good look at it. North Carolina staying with it, though. That one shot and deflected, parried over the crossbar by Schwartz for another North Carolina corner.
That's what we've seen all game long from North Carolina. Maybe that first push isn't the one that breaks through and gets you a goal, but stick with it, and eventually you'll have a good look. And this ball was struck true. Clear attempt right to the foot.
Julian Hinojosa might have had his first goal of the season there had Schwartz not been better prepared. That looked to be on target.
Good positioning from Schwartz, realizing that where Hinojosa was, his only option was to try to go top 90.
Now Fisher, it's a bit more underneath that one. Stone was ready for it. Well defended by Bucknell as Gabe Darlene went up and got it. Here we go, yet another corner kick. You see that number. That is certain to have a positive impact on things, especially when you have such great ball strikers like the Tar Heels do. We saw Garvanian with a lot of those. Cameron Fisher has taken the majority of them in the second half with the substitutions. Low and on a line, headed away off of, I believe that was Owusu that got it.
And Darren, I think the versatility, here's another chance.
A counter, Fisher issues it middle of the box, and a weak attempt by North Carolina.
The versatility that Carlos talked to us about offensively in terms of goal scoring that he expects from this team, I think it comes from not just in play, but he's also comfortable with set pieces and their ability to score off of either or.
I think that's just been it. You can see the score line and be impressed as that ball forwarded. Schick with his first touch receives it. You can look 7-0 and say, wow, that's impressive, and that's true. But you look at the ways North Carolina has scored each of those 7. It's been dynamic. There's another look to the outside. Stone with a touch in. Wintermeyer levels it, but it's off of a Bucknell defender. Schwartz with a bit of a risky play there on the high bounce.
Trying to keep that from a 13th North Carolina corner.
And a whistle will revert the direction of possession. That's Aldair Sanchez. We've seen him with a lot of touches, but they're so quick. I don't know that we've called his name, really. He's been right in the center of the attack for North Carolina for much of this second half.
It's a sign of a good midfielder, somebody who doesn't need to have the ball at their feet for very long, can just be that connecting piece from the back line to springing somebody out in front.
Given the VCU result, I think we stand to have 2 pretty good matchups, at least intriguing games for various reasons on Sunday. For Bucknell, obviously, you're going to be hungry. You want to bounce back from a 7-0 defeat, understanding that it was one of the top opponents that you could possibly have in all of college soccer. It's another challenging opponent in Wake Forest, which is a team that's going to be, I mean, seething mad coming off of a 2-0 loss, especially if I can imagine how those final 10 minutes went. The frustration that builds when you fail to get a goal against a disadvantaged team.
I think fans of both of those teams, Bucknell as well as Wake Forest, are going to go into that second matchup, and they're going to really want to see what has changed. What did you see from game one that clearly did not work that you're now fixing to try and become a better team? North Carolina and VCU, hey, you're both coming off of wins, and for VCU, obviously the high they're going to come off of beating a top 10 team is pretty insurmountable, considering North Carolina is 4. You can't really have a win like that, but you put up a 7 spot. You dominated in your win. So yeah, it's going to be really 2 good games, 2 very different games in terms of what you're looking for out of the teams, though.
Lopez, nothing there. No harm in pulling back the reins.
Nice touch.
How about Sanchez there, crossing his man and sending it right into the arms of Bennett Schwartz, but
set up a 1-touch. It was a 2-touch this time. It was a nice ball, I think, from Fisher that got him loose down that right side.
These looks have not been as easy for North Carolina. They're still getting many of them, but they're lower probability. Wintermeyer, for instance, has been at the top of the box and just hammered a few, but he's had 2-3 defenders in front of him a lot of those times.
I think you can credit a little bit of that to being that there have been subs in for more than not here in this second half, but also the adjustments. I'm sure that Coach Brown challenged this Bucknell team.
Sanchez wheels that one in. But I don't think the call is going to go because it was ruled offside. Again, Wintermeyer was there. They got awfully deep in this one, Kyle.
C39 Wintermeyer. Onside there. Oh, man. I think he was onside, Darren.
That is.
You could see that even though we're not parallel, you could see the leg, the back leg of his was on that white line in front of the goal, and so was the defenders.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Given the angle, we do have the line at our advantage. It was awfully close. But threading the needle with that pass, Sanchez put it right on Wintermeyer's head.
I think that's probably my biggest takeaway from this one, not just that pass from Sanchez, but everybody that was out there for North Carolina. In game 1 of the season, the crispness of their passing was phenomenal.
Well, there's the final horn. It'll be a shutout, a clean sheet for North Carolina to open its season. And an impressive one it was. 7 goals scored in this one, Kyle. They did it from a lot of different angles.
You come into the season and you're looking at North Carolina and saying they're coming off of yet another College Cup appearance. They've got 9 of the 11 starters from that team coming back. But where is the offense going to come from? It came from everywhere. And I think for North Carolina, you can't help but feel really good about the way that this one went. See if they can build off of it.